Imagine waking up in a world where every border, every city, and every nation flies the same banner. No United States, no British Empire, no Soviet Union, only Rome. The Roman eagle stretches across continents, carried by legions that never stopped marching. Roads cut through deserts and jungles. Aqueducts span mountains and valleys. Laws written in Latin bind every human being under one empire. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. But what if it had actually happened? What if Rome had conquered the entire world? To picture this alternate reality, we first need to understand the Rome that truly existed. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched from the windswept moors of Britain to the banks of the Euphrates, from the forests of Germany to the sands of Egypt. Over 60 million people lived under Roman rule. Its armies were the most disciplined in history. Its engineers built roads, aqueducts, and concrete structures that still stand 2,000 years later. For centuries, Rome was unstoppable. And yet, for all its glory, it eventually fell, torn apart by corruption, rebellion, and relentless invasions. But what if history had unfolded differently? Imagine Rome never collapsing. Imagine emperors who were stronger, generals who were wiser, and institutions that were less corrupt. Imagine a Rome that embraced innovation more quickly, adapting foreign ideas and technologies instead of clinging to tradition. With these small shifts, Rome might never have fractured. Instead, it could have become a single force of expansion, pushing further and further until nothing was left unconquered. Let's follow this thought experiment step by step. First, Rome would have secured its frontiers. The Germanic tribes that proved so troublesome might have been absorbed instead of feared. The Sahara could have been crossed with outposts and trade networks, allowing Rome to extend its reach deep into Africa. To the east, Rome's most tempting prize would have been India, a land rich in spices, jewels, and fertile soil. Securing India would not only make Rome richer than ever, it would give them control over some of the world's most vital trade routes. And then, beyond India, lay the most formidable rival of all, the Han dynasty of China. The clash between Rome and Han China could have been one of the greatest wars the world had ever seen. Two colossal empires with millions of soldiers colliding in Central Asia. If Rome won, the world might truly begin to unify under its banner. Absorbing China would not only give Rome unprecedented resources and manpower, it would also introduce technologies centuries ahead of their time. Paper, compasses, silk, and eventually gunpowder could all have entered Roman hands far earlier than in our timeline. Once the East was secure, Rome would look westward across the Atlantic. With improved shipbuilding, the Romans might have crossed the ocean 1,000 years before Columbus. They could have encountered the rich civilizations of the Americas long before Europe's age of exploration. Imagine legions marching through the jungles of Central America, facing Aztec or Mayan warriors. Imagine Roman governors in the Andes overseeing the Inca. With advanced engineering, they would build roads across the New World, just as they had in Europe, stamping the Roman way of life onto every continent. Now the entire world is Roman. But what does that mean for everyday people? Daily life would be both familiar and alien. Latin would be the global language, though mixed with local dialects and words borrowed from conquered cultures. Citizens in North America, Africa, and Asia would all be subject to Roman law, enjoying property rights, citizenship status, and the protections of a legal system refined over centuries. Walk into any city, and you would recognize the architecture immediately: grand forums where politicians debated, amphitheaters where crowds cheered spectacles, and aqueducts carrying water across impossible landscapes. Every major city might resemble Rome itself, duplicated thousands of times around the globe. Religion would also transform in unpredictable ways. In our reality, Christianity rose within Rome and eventually became its dominant faith, spreading across the world through European colonization. But if Rome had already conquered the entire world centuries earlier, the story could have been very different. Perhaps traditional Roman religion, the worship of Jupiter, Mars, and Venus might have been enforced on a global scale. Or maybe Christianity would still emerge, but in a different form, shaped by global diversity from the beginning. Perhaps even a brand new, universal faith would rise, blending Roman gods, Eastern philosophies, and local traditions into one shared religion for all humankind. Technology, too, would follow a unique path. Rome was brilliant at engineering roads, bridges, aqueducts, and architecture unmatched for centuries, but they were slow to embrace new science. Much of their economy depended on slavery, which often discouraged innovation. In a world-spanning Rome, progress might have slowed at first. Why invent machines when armies of slaves could perform the same labor? But over time, as Rome absorbed ideas from China, India, and beyond, things would accelerate. Imagine Roman engineers experimenting with Chinese gunpowder centuries before Europe ever discovered it. Picture Roman ships guided by compasses, Roman scholars studying Indian mathematics, and Roman doctors learning advanced medical knowledge from Egypt and Greece. The combination of Rome's discipline and global resources could spark an earlier scientific revolution. But not all consequences would be positive. A world ruled by Rome would also mean a world with no rivals, no alternative systems of government, and no competition between nations. With absolute power, the Roman emperors could become tyrants, crushing dissent wherever it appeared. Rebellions would be mercilessly suppressed. Freedom of thought and independence of culture might vanish under the weight of imperial control. The very diversity that makes our world vibrant today might have been flattened into one rigid Roman identity. Yes, there would be stability, and yes, there would be peace enforced by sheer military power, but it would be the peace of a cage. And what about us? Living today in this alternate world, we would not be speaking English. We would all be speaking Latin, or perhaps a modern version of it, shaped by centuries of global influence. The concept of nations might not exist. There would be no France, no America, no Pakistan, no Japan, only provinces of a single empire. Wars like World War I or World War II would never occur, because there would be no independent nations to fight them. Instead, history would be defined by the rise and fall of emperors, dynasties, and civil wars within one enormous Roman state. Our architecture would look Roman. Our roads would be Roman. Our cities designed according to Roman principles. Even our calendars and holidays would be shaped by Roman traditions. Would democracy exist? Probably not. Rome's system allowed for senates and assemblies, but ultimate power always drifted toward emperors. In a global empire, that tendency would only increase. A single ruler, claiming divine authority, might govern billions of people. Human progress might be unified, but individual freedom could be stifled for centuries. It's possible that revolutions, like those that shaped our modern democracies, might never have taken place. Humanity might have remained under autocratic rule far longer, with fewer chances for individual rights and liberty to flourish. And yet, there is another way to see it. A unified world under Rome might have ended endless cycles of warfare. The centuries of bloodshed between kingdoms, nations, and empires in our history might never have happened. Instead, resources could have been directed toward infrastructure, art, and science. Without the destruction of the Dark Ages, knowledge might never have been lost. Progress could have leapt forward, with global communication, transportation, and culture developing centuries earlier. In this sense, a Roman world might have been a world of stability and advancement, a world without the chaos of competing empires. So, was this alternate Rome a golden age of unity, or a nightmare of oppression? That depends on how we judge history. Power brings both order and corruption, stability and tyranny. If Rome had conquered the entire world, humanity might have reached technological heights earlier, but it might also have lost its freedom in the process. One thing is certain: if Rome had succeeded, the history we know today would be unrecognizable. Our languages, our nations, our religions, even our very sense of identity would all be different. We would not be who we are. We would all, in one way or another, still be Romans.